Om Gyana Timrandasya Gana Gana Salakaya Chaksurun Miritam Gena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. The greatest service that one can do is speak the Bhagavad Gita to others as it is, and to enliven someone to take up bhakti yoga, worship Lord Krishna. That is the greatest service that can be done for humanity. The greatest disservice is to see the so-called uneducated yogis and teachers who rely upon the Bhagavad Gita, speak the words of Bhagavad Gita, and completely misconstrue them. They try to wipe out Lord Krishna. They try to wipe out his uniqueness, his superiority, his godhood. And they want to make Krishna like themselves. They want to become God. This is the greatest disservice. So we must come onto these YouTube videos as my spiritual master did, and we have to blast these people and show them that they don't know what they're talking about, and what they're doing is offensive. It's completely wrong. And in the same breath, reveal the actual words of Lord Krishna, because if we awaken, even if we awaken devotion to God through the Bhagavad Gita, we have done the greatest service to humanity. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, there is no greater work than to preach the glories of Bhagavad Gita to others. So, and there are endless teachers of yoga that defile and degrade the actual words of Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Is very sad, very sad. So we hope to bring a little light, a little truth, a little love to the listeners, to those that are listening, and awaken bhakti in the heart. Want people to take up bhakti to Krishna correctly, because it will liberate you. It will take you away from all of your distress. It is the supreme goal of your life. So let's go ahead and share a screen here. Okay, here. So this is coming from an impersonal interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita.
Prakrutim swamadhisthaya sambhavamyatmamayaya. Though unborn, of imperishable nature, and also Lord of beings, governing my own prakriti, nature, matter, I take birth by my own maya, illusion.
So this verse that she is speaking is this verse here. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaro pisan prakritim svam adistyatya sambhavami atma mayaya. This is chapter 4, text number 6, transcendental knowledge. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, although I am the Lord of all sentient beings, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. There's a beautiful theme here that Krishna is continuing with in his discussion with Arjuna. He's differentiating himself by saying, I am unborn. So he's telling Arjuna, Aja, birth, I am unborn. Here I am before you, but I didn't take birth because I was forced to. And earlier, Krishna explains that he is aware of all of his previous births. So it must dawn on Arjuna that Krishna is in a superior position. This is the purpose of relating this information to Arjuna. He wants Arjuna to know that his form is not ordinary. His form doesn't deteriorate. So here it says it's imperishable, doesn't deteriorate. And that's another clue. The transcendental form of the Lord does not deteriorate. Now, unfortunately, the impersonalists, they only read, when they see the word imperishable, they only refer that to the Atma. The Atma is imperishable, and the body, of course, which is another Atma, the Atma of the body, the gross body, is perishable. And so these impersonalists only refer back to the imperishable Atma. They can't, however, put together this puzzle of what Krishna is saying. They don't understand it. So they leave out important aspects of these verses in order to simply try to push forward their theory that Krishna's Atma, which is the soul, and our Atma, which is the soul, is imperishable. And that once we achieve Godhood, like Krishna, then we are not limited by the body. We can see past, present, future, and that makes us God. So in their estimation, once you are free from the illusion of body, you are God. They think Krishna has come here to teach them so how they can get rid of the illusion of bodily identification and then become God. This is a very common theme among the impersonalists. It's easy. It doesn't require any other Vedic knowledge to support that. They just simply tell you, just get rid of the illusion of duality and you will realize you're God. Now, if you look at the verse, however, that's not at all what's being said here. Krishna is talking about himself and he's explaining his unique position. And he's telling Arjuna that I appear in each millennium by my own transcendental energy or my own internal potency. You don't have that, Arjuna. I don't have that. Nobody has that. We can't appear and disappear as we wish. We're limited. We can't do that. The Lord can do that. And he explains why he does that. Even though his body's imperishable, he takes birth every millennium in order to destroy the impious, support and protect the pious, and to propagate the principles of religion. What are the principles of religion? Krishna is laying them out here. That's what he's telling Arjuna. He's not telling Arjuna, just get rid of the illusion and you become me. That's not supported in Bhagavad Gita. So the reason why this particular teacher, get up here, come on, there we go. We're gonna move this over here. There we go. While this particular teacher, their lineage is not a Vaishnav lineage. They don't support the form of the Lord. They don't support that God has a transcendental body. They only want to go as far as Atma. And that's not what the Bhagavad Gita is all about. So if you follow the teachings of the impersonalists, you will never attain what they are describing. It is an unattainable goal. You can't become just Atma. Now, are we Atma? Yes, we are imperishable. Yes, that is clearly mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. We are indivisible. You can't be cut. it can't be chopped up to pieces. We are the indivisible Atma, and we are eternal. Okay, that is fact. But to realize that you are Atma, the only way to do that is in relation to the Paramatma. The relationship between the Atma and Paramatma is one of service, attitude, devotional service, we call this, bhakti. So if one takes up bhakti to the Paramatma, he realizes his own Atma. It's qualitatively similar to the Paramatma, but quantitatively inferior. That is the eternal relationship with the Paramatma. Furthermore, if I was Atma previously, as the impersonalists allude to, and I fell into conditional life, and here we are now with a conditioned body, why am I going to put all of my effort into returning to this bodiless state of Atma realization? Because if I work hard through some either word jugglery or intense meditation and penance, austerity, yoga, I can expect to fall again. Just as I fell before, I will fall again. And so at the very best, if one only is concerned with Atma realization, he can expect perhaps a short glimpse into eternity and then coming back into conditioned life. That again is not the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is teaching us how we can attain the spiritual world and never take birth again. Never to take birth again, Krishna says, to advance to the kingdom of God. That is the real meaning of the Bhagavad Gita. Why don't these people understand that? Because they're not hearing from a devotee of Krishna. They're hearing from an impersonalist guru. And all of their effort is to hear from their guru and to understand what their guru was saying. So if your guru is an impersonalist, you are an impersonalist. Is it possible for an impersonalist? Is it possible for an impersonalist to become a personalist? Yes. If one is not a hardcore hater of the form of the Lord, and he is open to hearing the glories of Lord Krishna, to hearing the proper interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita, then he can become a personalist. Back in the day, I would say 1800s, 1600s, 1500s, Varanasi was it was a thriving city where many great saints, sages, and yogis and rishis came, and from different schools of thought, Vedic thought, and there were discussions raised, and the best from each class or organization or thought represented that attitude or that understanding of the absolute. And that person who gave superior information, who clearly defeated the other, then the defeated party would join the other party because he's really interested in becoming advanced spiritually. But in this age, if I was to have a discussion with someone from another class or school, and I clearly showed them that the Bhagavad Gita has a different meaning than how they've understood it, it doesn't mean that they will become a bhakta, because this age is full of cheaters. Still, we will never put down our effort to uproot to expose those persons who are speaking nonsense. My spiritual master did this, and following in his footsteps, we can also do the same thing. So that is why we are doing these videos. We want to show how these persons are misinterpreting the words of Krishna, and how you, who are a devotee, or hopefully become a devotee, can ferret this out and become very expert at defeating these type of persons.
Not matter, and therefore it never bet. Reality, which is presenting itself in different, fulfilling, exciting, enthralling. And when you get to the goal, of course, it is absolute bliss.
So this is false. She is trying to glamorize this journey into the Atma, and she's telling you how wonderful it is. But it's actually a struggle. Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita how difficult it is to become Atma realized in and of itself. This is called the impersonal path. It's difficult, as opposed to the personal path, which Krishna clearly says in the Bhagavad Gita that it is susukam kartam avyayam. It is pleasurable from the beginning. It is not difficult. Worshipping Lord Krishna as God is easy once you give up the false notion that you are God and give that speciality to Lord Krishna. Then the practice of bhakti becomes pleasurable. It's natural. And if I conversely, if I think myself or trying to think myself God, my efforts are so futile and so difficult and strenuous and laborious. And in the end, they produce nothing but frustration. This is our message. This is Krishna's message.
Verse 7. Yada yada hi dharmasya ग्लानिर्भवति भारत अभ्युत्थानमधर्मस्य तदात्मानं सृजाम्यहम्. Whenever dharma, righteousness, declines, and adharma, unrighteousness, increases, then I manifest myself, O Bharata, descendant of Bharata. So now he is explaining how realized people like Krishna appear on the scene. It's all a matter.
So the first thing that we notice here, that this impersonalist teacher is saying, is she says, people like Krishna. Excuse me. How many people have spoken Bhagavad Gita? You're referring to Bhagavad Gita. It is unique. It is Krishna's song, the song of Bhagavan. And you're saying people like Krishna descend. Is that not a direct offense of disrespect to Lord Krishna? Right away, you must admit that this is offensive. Who else has spoken Bhagavad Gita? Please tell us. Please enlighten us. People like Krishna, she says. No, we're saying only Krishna. And she's saying people like Krishna. See the difference? This is Krishna's unique position. No one can duplicate it. No one can equal it. This is Krishna's unique position. You cannot say people like Krishna. That's the difference. The Bhagavad Gita and Lord Krishna are incredible. And they And Krishna has that uniqueness, incredibleness that nobody else has. You will never become Krishna. You will never have a young body like Krishna's. You will never be able to have a spiritual body and go from place to place, millennium after millennium, taking birth in different spiritual forms or in your original form. You don't have that ability. You will never gain that ability. No matter how much you pout, no matter how much you try, no matter how much you want a word jugglery, believe it, it's never going to happen. No one else has ever spoken Bhagavad Gita, and no one else will speak Bhagavad Gita. Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita says, and you quoted this impersonalist yogi, she says, Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god Vibhishvan 2 million years earlier. So only one person speaking Bhagavad Gita, and that's Krishna. But she's saying people like Krishna. How offensive. Just put aside your hatred toward Krishna, your offensive attitude, and understand that Krishna is unique, and you will then become Krishna's devotee if you're lucky.
Matter of demand and supply. When dharma, righteousness declines, then among people there is this demand for righteousness. They get fed up of unrighteousness. They want truth. They want righteousness. They want honesty. They want character. And then a leader comes up who meets with their demand. So then I manifest myself, O Bharata. So it's like the wind. The wind goes from high pressure to low pressure. Whenever the wind experiences resistance, it goes another way. And wind is refreshing. You say in English, somebody appeared like a breath of fresh air.
Now that's actually, there's some truth in that, because cyclical, dharma and adharma do go in cycles. We know that. Going through from the Satya to the Treta, Dwapara, and Kali Yuga, there is a gradual decline in religion. And so Krishna says, yuge, yuge. With each yuga, I manifest myself in order to protect the righteous, even though by my design, there is a decrease in religiosity. I come to protect the righteous. Even though there's a decrease, I do that because they depend upon me. And I again preach the principles of religion. I get things going again in a positive way, even though when I leave, Krishna says, again, there will be a decline. That is expected. So Krishna is constantly coming and giving those who are righteous and who are steadfast to the principles of Dharma. He's giving them a chance by his grace, by his protection, to continue in their spirituality, and he blesses them. He gives himself, and they take shelter of him as they take shelter, and by so doing, they advance spiritually and ultimately go back home, back to God.
Realized people are like that. They go from high values to low values. Where there is a need, there's demand. So there's a magnetic pull, and they appear. But when they meet with resistance, when they sense for the protection of the good and destruction of evildoers, for the sake of establishing dharma, righteousness, I am born in every age.
Now, you will see from this verse where they take the meaning, I am born in every age. They will then say, it is not actually Krishna born in every age. It is an acharya or a guru, a divine being that's born in every age. And it is the Atma, the self-realized Atma, that is born in every age that brings back Dharma. They will never say it is Krishna born in every age. This is their misinterpretation of the Bhagavad Gita. And you will hear this as a constant theme from these impersonalists, because they never want to give the body of Krishna the transcendental credit that he deserves. They don't believe in the body. They don't understand that there is a transcendental body. They don't see it. They don't believe it. Even though it's mentioned in Shastra, even though it is here in Bhagavad Gita, even though it's here in Srimad Bhagavatam, even though it is clearly stated in other Upanishads and Puranas, throughout the scripture, glory is given to the transcendental form of the Lord. These impersonalists want to discount that as though it doesn't exist. They don't believe it. They think that Krishna is realized, but his body is ordinary. And so they will even go as far as to say every time Krishna appears in different millennium, it's another guru who is Krishna. And that's why you sometimes see these impersonalist yogis wearing peacock feathers, pretend to play a flute. They're trying to say, oh, Krishna I was in a previous age, and now I'm Krishna today. Because there's no difference between me and Krishna, because I'm a realized soul, he's a realized soul. This is really dangerous, okay? And let's remember that these people who claim to be God, they're not even self-realized. They're not even self-realized, because nobody in and of itself can attain Atma realization and stay in that platform, because you were there before originally, you fell, and what you're going to be going back again, only to fall again. Because Atma realization of its in and of itself is temporary. It is not the final destination for the soul. The soul can't stay in an Atma, just in Atma realization. It becomes embodied. Why? Because the soul by nature is sentient, as is Krishna. And the soul requires sentient activity. It's either going to serve the senses of Krishna, or it's going to serve the senses of the gross body. That is the choice that the Atma can make. This is the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. This is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. So if you get to the real meaning of the Bhagavad Gita, you'll be safe, protected. You'll be able to execute Bhakti Yoga Krishna consciousness under the protection of Lord Krishna. He's not ordinary. His body is not ordinary. None of us have a body like Krishna. None of us. His body is him. He is his body. He's transcendental. Every part of his body is fully transcendental. It is a source of all beings, of all planets, of all manifestations. Sarvakarana Karanam. So taking shelter of Lord Krishna is the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. And once the Atma, the self, takes shelter of Lord Krishna, how? By glorifying the Lord through bhakti. Every time you execute bhakti, it is yajna. You do sacrifice bhakti on behalf of Krishna. Then Krishna empowers us, because he is the supreme God. He empowers us. He enlightens us. He brings us release from the three modes of material nature. It is by Krishna's grace. So once one gets a clear understanding of what the Bhagavad Gita really is, it's clear sailing. That is how you attain real advanced God consciousness. So it is a little more difficult in the beginning, because we have to become clear. We have to we have to engineer, if you will, our thinking, because we're habituated to this idea of self, 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 self. And it takes a little time to re-engineer our thinking toward that personality that is invisible to us. We have to have that faith, that shraddha in that invisible person. How? Through hearing authorized knowledge coming from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, as an example. Hearing the glories of the Lord correctly will dispel our illusion. That's what Krishna says to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. And it'll happen for you, and it'll happen for me. And as our illusion is dispelled, this idea, this habituation, this obsessiveness with wanting to become God, wanting to become enlightened, wanting to become free from illusion and realize I'm eternal, those lesser ideas and conceptions will go away. They're just more ways of snaring us, capturing us into Maya. So when the selfish tendency is gone from us and we start to relish devotional service to Krishna, really begin to relish and understand it, that Krishna's activities are our food, the substance, then we become God conscious, very, very happy. And what happens to us is up to Krishna. I beg for his protection. Where I go, what I become, I only pray that I may be able to remember Krishna from moment to moment. And Krishna says that he is the Lord of benediction. So as we are praying, because we are not independent, we are dependent. So we must pray to God for protection. And as we are praying to Krishna for protection in different ways, he will give his benediction to us. He gave his benediction to Lord Brahma. He benedicts, that because he's able to. Only Krishna can benedict. Some people will say, well, the demigods, they give benedictions. They give rain, they give this, they give that, they give money, Lakshmi. So they worship the demigods. In Hinduism, there's this worship of demigods. But Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that worshiping the demigods is indirectly worshiping him, because he alone is giving the demigods their powers. So worshiping the demigods is not recommended by Krishna. You just worship me, Krishna says. That is the message of the Bhagavad Gita. So if one becomes intelligent, he understands this vyavasayatmika buddhi. It is a complete re-engineering of our thinking. It is. It does require a perfect devotee guru of Krishna, such as my spiritual master, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to explain this. There is a parampara. Prabhupada's not independent. He is in a parampara that goes all the way back to Lord Brahma. So this knowledge is being preserved and is being given. And it is something that needs to be studied and understood and heard. And so that is why we take the time to make these videos, to encourage persons who really want to become joyful, happy, liberated, live a good life, to take up this practice of worshiping Krishna correctly. And as you can start with by reading Bhagavad Gita as it is, and we'll put a link in our video below. Thank you for listening. Hare Krishna.